Welcome to the finale of Wild Card Weekend. You are looking live at Lincoln Financial Field, the site of today's playoff matchup between the Eagles and the Seahawks. And if the other three games this weekend have been any indicator, we are in for a wild one today. The Eagles in the playoffs for the third straight year, but it is the first playoff game for quarterback Carson Wentz, one of the big storylines, and we know he's excited for that. Welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. Amy Campbell, as always, joined by Fran Duffy. We're going to send you right back out to Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles are warming up to take on the Seahawks. The playoffs are here. It is Wild Card Weekend, a very compelling matchup today, Fran, and you can feel the excitement around this entire city today.
I'm going to be honest, I felt the energy yesterday on Saturday. I felt it driving into the office today. When you feel the noise from the parking lot, from the tailgates, you could feel it. South Philadelphia is on fire right now. I'm excited for this game to kick off here in a few minutes.
I can only imagine what's going through Carson Wentz's head as he has been on the sidelines watching his team in the playoffs the last two seasons. Now he gets the opportunity to lead this team to victory today against a Seattle team that beat the Eagles earlier this season in Week 12, but I would look at these two teams and say they're mirror images of each other. Injuries all over offense, all over the offensive line, the playmakers there. Two quarterbacks who've been making magic happen, getting their teams across the finish line to victory. Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz. Which quarterback is going to emerge victorious today? That's the big thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to argue against what Carson Wentz has done over the last few weeks. And we know Russell Wilson, another guy who is battle-tested. They love to push the ball down the field. He can create with his legs, and he's being asked to do so right now with the injuries they've got in that backfield. So I would look at this guy, number 11, and say, all right, you're down a number of your big weapons. Can you keep this going? Do what you've been doing all throughout the course of this final stretch leading to the postseason. I would expect nothing less from number 11, Carson Wentz.
Well, Miles Sanders looking pretty healthy right there. Let's take a look at the offensive starters. We know Nelson Aguilar is out. Lane Johnson inactive. Brandon Brooks moved to the injured reserve with that shoulder injury earlier this week. Matt Pryor going to be stepping in for Brandon Brooks. Vaitai filling in for Lane Johnson today. What do you think about this offensive line as they match up against the Seattle Seahawks defense?
Well, the big one that everyone's going to be interested in is going to be number 69, Matt Pryor, who is a big, large, powerful human being. I mean, he is all kinds of big, does everything that you want in terms of the trenches, in terms of moving people at the point of attack. He's one of the largest offensive linemen in the NFL. He's going to give them a little bit of juice in the run game, and he's just so tough to get around because of how big he is at right guard. Obviously a step back from Brandon Brooks. So he and Big V are going to work together on that right side. They've been working all week together. We saw them on the back end of that game last week in New York as well. So look, this is going to be the offensive line going in this game. It was the offensive line in the second half of that game the last time these two teams played. Remember, Andre Dillard and Brandon Brooks both out in that matchup, so those guys were the right side of the offensive line. They had a lot of issues in that game. Hopefully a lot of that stuff corrected now as they've had a full week together of preparation.
I know Eagles fans have been wondering about this guy all week long. Zach Ertz is questionable today. He's been limited all week, but has been looking pretty good running around there in warmups. Let's talk a little bit about the running back position for the Eagles as well. Jordan Howard listed as the starter. We know Miles Sanders is supposedly ready to go today. He said earlier this week, hey, nobody feels good at this time of the year, but I feel ready to play. What do you think about the Eagles run game with Jordan Howard now back for the second week in a row after playing one snap last week?
Yeah, and this is nothing against what Miles Sanders and Boston Scott have done over the last few weeks when Jordan Howard has been hurt. But when you have this guy, number 24, in the lineup, he is a tone setter early for you when he's healthy, and he's got the ability to close out games for you if you've got a lead. So that's something that Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, they don't really have that in their body. So having that guy that can bang between the tackles, if it's 2nd and 3, get you 4. It's 1st and 10, he can get you 4 or 5 and set you up to stay on schedule. That's what you want in the backfield. And then having guys like that guy, number 35, Boston Scott, having Miles Sanders to be able to change things up, hit teams on the outside in the passing game, that's really now bringing this whole backfield full circle.
Let's look at the defensive starters for the Eagles. This is a defense that has the fewest points allowed per game at home since 2016. That's including the playoffs. And they also have the second best home winning percentage in that span. 73.5%, a 25-9 record. Going to be a tough task for Seattle today. What stands out to you about the defense today?
Well, the big thing is going to be in the secondary. Obviously, look, Jalen Mills back from that injury that bothered him, caused him to miss last week's game. Rasul Douglas starting at right corner. We're going to talk about the matchups a little bit later in the show that we'll see against the Seattle receiving core. We look back to that matchup in Week 12, Amy. Again, just 6 weeks ago, these two teams played. The defense was outstanding. That guy in the middle of the defense right there, Malcolm Jenkins, was phenomenal. Nigel Bradham, the secondary, was outstanding. Remember, that month of November, they locked opposing receiving cores down. They were excellent against the pass. They're going to need a similar kind of effort because without these running backs, Russell Wilson, Seattle, they're going to be throwing the football.
Yeah, well, and when you look at that game, like you said, the defense did really well, but it was a trick play that scored one of the touchdowns for Seattle, and then it was also that one big run by Rashad Penny, 2 touchdowns there, a quick 14 points and a 17-9 loss there. You can just see, just watching these guys run in, just a little bit of extra lift in their step, a little bit of extra juice there with the playoffs. Lots of excitement, of course. And as we look at the playoff picture, we are still awaiting the result of this afternoon's game. Another overtime. 2 out of 4 of these games, 2 out of 3 that we've had so far, have gone to overtime. They've all been really exciting. So I'm a little nervous if ours is going to be stressful, probably because they usually are. All right, if we look here, if the Vikings win, they are tied 20-20 right now. If the Vikings win this game, they will be going to San Francisco, and the Eagles, if they win, they will be going to Green Bay. If the Saints win, the Eagles will be going to San Francisco. And pluses and minuses for both opponents here for the Eagles, Fran.
Well, I think number one, we know Doug Peterson always said, go 1-0 every week. Got to beat Seattle to talk about the divisional round. But when you look
we're thinking about this.
Of course,
They're
we're
not
looking
thinking
ahead.
About
yes.
this.
I think when you look at San Francisco, you look at Green Bay, you've got one squad in Green Bay that is battle tested. They've got Aaron Rodgers, a guy who's won a Super Bowl, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith. On that opposite side, a very dynamic pass rush. They've got guys on that defense that have won titles. You look at San Francisco now, they're not as battle-tested. Their coaching staff has certainly been battle-tested, and they're going to rely on those guys. Robert Saleh has won in Seattle. Kyle Shanahan has won wherever he's been, and obviously has been to many Super Bowls. So I think when you look at both teams, there are pluses and minuses to going on the road to face either squad. Both of them have their set of challenges. Eagles have to take care of business today, but an interesting, certainly Week 2 matchup in the divisional round.
Yeah, and we're keeping an eye on the score of that game as well, so we'll keep you posted if you don't already have it on, which you should. All right, we're going to go back out to Lincoln Financial Field and check in with the Eagles insider, Dave Spadaro, for his storyline and his key to the game. Dave, what do you got for us today?
In his 4th NFL season, Carson Wentz makes his playoff debut, and this is significant, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But for Wentz, he's the one carrying the Eagles offense. So my storyline is how Carson Wentz handles this moment. Now, at North Dakota State, he was part of 5 national championship teams. He quarterbacked 2 of those teams to wins. So he understands the idea of pressure. And the Eagles 2 weeks ago played in a must-win game at Lincoln Financial Field. This is different, though. And without some of his key weapons in the pass game and a rebuilt right side of the offensive line, Wentz has to be patient against a defense that gave him a lot of problems 6 weeks ago. How he moves the chains, how he works in the red zone. A key statistic today, Carson Wentz, 19 touchdown passes, 0 turnovers in the red zone this season. So we need to see continued brilliance from Wentz, who's thrown 7 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions in these last 4 games. My key to the game, the Philadelphia Eagles defense, which has been victimized all season by big plays, cannot let DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett beat them deep. They must be very disciplined when they see Russell Wilson scrambling in the backfield and trust that the front 7 will do the job. So the Eagles defense, great against the run, do a great job there, but don't give the Seahawks big points easily in the pass game. Back to you at the NovaCare Complex.
Thank you, Dave, and some great stats there from Dave about the importance of taking care of the football and how well Carson has been doing that in the stretch of games that this team has been winning. And Carson even said earlier this week, the echo of the week will be taking care of the football. So I'll go ahead and write that down as Carson's key. What about your key to this one?
Well, I think really when you look at that last matchup back in Week 12, look, you look at one big stat, Amy, for me, and that's that the Eagles passing game, they only attempted 4 passes of past 12 yards the entire game. Carson only completed 1 pass beyond 12 yards the entire game. 2 of them were picked off. So in this game, I think you look back at what the Eagles have done. They've been more aggressive over the last few games, and I think ultimately against the Seattle secondary, they can be aggressive because this DB group can be had down the field. So let's just look at this. Let's look at the film. This is exactly what they are defensively. They like to play a lot of single high, typically cover 3 zone. They'll mix in some man coverage as well, and you can attack those zone corners on the outside. Look at the right side with what's called 2 through a zone. This is a concept that's in the Eagles playbook. You have a post route from the outside receiver, hope to carry that corner towards the middle of the field and open up a void along the sideline. Now you can run a wheel route down the sideline. Think Greg Ward out of the slot, 38 yards against Dallas just a few weeks ago. But that wheel route can come from anywhere. It could be a tight end. Zach Ertz has run this route. Dallas Goedert can run this route. Josh Perkins, we saw him down the field last week, can run this route. And if you want to take it even a step further, Amy, go into the backfield. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, both of those guys have the juice to be able to work vertically down the field in the passing game. So somehow the Eagles have to be able to what's called work 2 through a zone, attack the deep part of that Seattle secondary. I think they could do it in this game, and it's something that they were not able to do back in Week 12.
All right, for me, my key to this one is going to be the Eagles offense needs to score fast but keep their foot on the gas. Seattle is known for coming from behind to win the game. They have trailed in 7 games this season. At halftime, they've won 6 of them. The ball cannot be in Russell Wilson's hands with the game on the line and 2 minutes to go. So holding on to the football, controlling the time of possession, and whoever has the ball at the end of this game I think is going to be really critical. But if the Eagles can score fast and build a lead and not let it come down to Russell Wilson, who is almost never out of the game, that is my key to this one. All right, we are going to check in with Mike and Merrill for some players to watch and the weather report as always. Take it away, Merrill.
Amy, it is gray and it is cold and it is dramatic here at the Link as the Eagles get set for the wild card playoff game against Seattle. We're all set. Hopefully they are. And Mike, who is your player to watch?
I'm going to keep a focus on Rasul Douglas, number 32. When I listened to the Seahawks all week long, they talked about their first matchup where they missed opportunities down the field. They're going to push the ball down the field, and it's going to be up to Rasul Douglas to make sure that DK Metcalf and company doesn't get the big play on him.
Amy, I don't usually say focus on a guard, but today the guard is Matt Pryor because Lane Johnson is out. That means Halapolavati Vaitai is playing right tackle, and Matt Pryor, with very little experience, is playing right guard. He's been playing well so far. He has to keep it up today. So that's the way it stands from here. Back to you.
All right, I hope you guys are staying warm in today's game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mike Quick is one-on-one with Boston Scott, the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Stay with us.